Warning. Listener discretion advisory for the following program. It contains explicit language, controversial takes, and tangents that'll make your head spin. All opinions expressed are just that, opinions, and belong solely to those who speak them. This is...
What an excellent day for an August.
You'd like that?
What are you, fucking nuts?
You listen, you little bitch. You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand?
I want you to pray to your God. I want you to pray that he comes and saves you.
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Spoilers ahead.
I think you picked the right word when you said it was disgusting. This movie is even worse than disgusting. It's despicable. What were they thinking of when they made this movie?
Money.
It's not only despicable, of course they were thinking of money, it's irresponsible.
Hey, what's going on there, Ladle Nits? So, as you heard from the man himself, Roger Ebert, we are going to be irresponsible on this episode by discussing a movie about a woman who's having dreams about a burnt man who is picking off her friends one by one. That's right, the directorial debut of Andrew Fleming, who went on to make such classics as Threesome, Dick, and The Craft, the 1988 movie Bad Dreams. But before we get into it, this is the time where I'm going to remind well, you know where I'm going with this. You know what I'm going to say, right? Come on, you could tell me. Come on, say it out loud. No. Say it again. This time with feeling. Ooh, that's a bingo! That's right. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things to spread the word about this show, let everybody know why they should be listening, and encourage them, and also to do for yourself if you have not already. Give us a rating and review. It'll make the world a better place. Now, I remember 14-year-old me hanging out with my best friend at the time, and he was telling me about his parents taking him to go see this movie, and that was the description he gave. And still being on a high from Dream Warriors and just watching that constantly, I was intrigued. But the thing that pushed me over the top for this one was he was telling me how the ending credits had Sweet Child of Mine from Guns N' Roses. And as much as I love Dream Warriors, yeah, Guns N' Roses was my fucking world at that point. So even if the movie sucked otherwise, I was hanging in there just to get to the ending credits because why not? So like I said, this is Andrew Fleming's first film as a director, and the screenplay was written by him as well as Stephen E. D'Souza, which, if you don't know who he is, he wrote 48 Hours, Commando, and everybody's favorite Christmas classic, Die Hard. The film stars Jennifer Rubin, Taryn from Dream Warriors. We have Dan Kane himself, Bruce Abbott, Richard Lynch, Harris Yulin, Dean Cameron, E.G. Daly, Susan Rutten, Louis Giambalvo. Of course, there's always going to be a name I can't pronounce. But anyhow, I was going to go with the IMDb synopsis, but I don't know. I kind of like the one my buddy gave me a little more. But the movie opens up with Richard Lynch, who plays Harris, and he is a cult leader, very Jim Jones-like, and this cult is called Unity Fields. 'Cause I'm going to Unity Fields. This shit ain't real. Dr. Carmen is a fucking creep. Anyhow, but yeah, so he's walking in. I get the impression she was a newer member, but it's Jennifer Rubin who plays Cynthia, and they're getting together for their epic finale, I guess, to which, one by one, he takes a ladle and pours gasoline on all the members, and going on his little speech about, death is love and shit like that. I don't know. It was an odd stretch, but, fuck it. Just go with it. And ultimately, once everybody's doused, he lights a match, throws it on the ground, and the house fucking explodes. And we cut to emergency services, they put the fire out and all that, and find out that Cynthia is still alive. However, she's in a coma. So then we roll credits as she's getting pulled out, taken to the hospital, all that stuff. You see paparazzi trying to get in on what her deal is and all this. And in the meantime, they're showing like all this, I don't know if it's like straight news footage or if there was like a documentary or whatever happened, but of people talking to Harris and the other cult members and just, I guess, explaining their mission statement. And all of it's about, again, comparing death to love. Like you hear one of the members saying, oh, well, if I were to kill you, that is because I love you. And again, a stretch. As I've gotten old and bitter, sure, fuck it, I'll run with that. So as the credits are wrapping up, we get more into Harris, more looking in the camera, almost like he's speaking to us, and boom, it's 13 years later, and Cynthia is waking up by these visions. And then we get introduced to, I believe it's both of them, but so we have Bruce Abbott playing Dr. Carmen, and Harris Yulin playing Dr. Beresford, and they're explaining she's been fucked up for quite some time. We're glad to see she's alive, and they decide they're gonna take her off, and so yeah, she ends up in a psych ward, and I guess they're gonna use this in order to get her adapted to her new timeline. So they take her to the first group session, and that's where we meet the rest of the cast. And they did a really good job at establishing everyone's character. Like, it almost felt odd because you don't get that as much nowadays. And it's all just fucking cannon fodder. Like, the only purpose of these characters coming in is to kill them off. But in less than 5 minutes, you get a really good sense as to everybody's personalities, and I miss that shit. But my favorite, of course, is Ralph, who's played by Dean Cameron. Again, being on a little bit of a high from summer school, fucking love Chainsaw and Dave. Has nothing to do with the name, just a huge fan of them. That was like me and my buddies at the time. We were that obsessive about horror at the time. And yeah, Ralph is the most manic character of this movie. And I think he did quite well. Now, I did read that because up to this point, the few roles he's had, he was playing more of a comedic role. Whereas this one's supposed to be more straight, but because of his comedic experience in previous movies, Fleming, I guess, well, it sounds like across the board. He gave like prompts, I'm trying to go with the modern terms. So prompts, vibes, all that shit. I mean, there was a script, but gave everybody enough wiggle room to ad-lib where they felt it would better suit the character. And apparently, for Ralph's character, that was a big one. Even though it was supposed to be a straight character, he was in a sense the comic relief of this, but he wasn't like, it was just, he was so fucked up and sarcastic and a hornball. But I was glad to see that he was able to let loose like that. And this whole movie has a lighthearted end to it, but this movie has a lighthearted subtone to it. In no way is this a horror comedy. You get little quips, you get the quirkiness of all the characters, but again, it's just, I guess, lighten the mood a little without making it funny. And then we have Lana, played by E.G. Daly, and that fucked me up. Of as much as I watched it at the time, I never made the connection. Like, oh shit, that's Dottie. It was just this, cute, timid, quiet girl. Which we find out not too long into it that, apparently she was kind of a mute. And by the time she does start talking, she's again, just very timid, very, she's not good at socializing, but definitely has a heart of gold and is just very, very empathetic. We have, I would say, maybe the least fleshed out of all the characters, but still you get a decent vibe for who they are. Ed and Connie, who I guess they're a couple or friends with benefits. They definitely hang out with each other, and any cracks they're making, they're kind of playing off each other. I know when I was a kid watching this, I just assumed, oh, they're a couple who both happen to be crazy and in the same institution. But watching it more as an adult, yeah, it just seems like they probably met there and then just had like a little friends with benefits thing. We have Miriam, who's probably my second favorite of the movie. Apparently she worked for, one of the gossip rags, and so she's kind of the conspiracy theorist of the whole thing. And just she just fucking chain smoking throughout the whole movie. She's picking up on everybody's ulterior motive and just really blunt, fucking, I don't even know about sarcastic. She's just brutal, but yet still does seem to care about people. It's just, she's got no room for bullshit, whether that's her perception or if it's actual bullshit. We have Gilda, who, she's kind of the crazy Ralph of this one. Like, she doesn't have a lot of involvement in it, but she seems to be receptive to Cynthia's visions and I guess to some extent Harris. Like, I don't know if she's supposed to be like clairvoyant or what her deal is, but she's just, most of her dialogue is just essentially, you're all doomed. Like, she's quoting, it almost sounds like scripture, but I guess a lot of it is Harris's philosophies. She can kind of sense when he's around and things like that. They don't necessarily spill it out. It's just, again, what she says and how she says it. She's apparently picking up something. And I'm sure I'm missing someone, but that's the bulk of it as far as the main cast. And then Harris Yulin's playing Dr. Beresford, and like I said, Bruce Abbott playing Dr. Carmen. So again, they go into this group chat. When Cynthia first comes in, all right, I'm sorry, go back. Dr. Carmen did not walk her into the group because he is not there yet. They sit down for the group, and then you have guy sit down, he starts explaining, like, okay, I'm the doctor here, yada yada, and then he starts talking to Cynthia, like, very suggestive, and I could picture you in a tight green little outfit, and blah blah blah, and like it just starts like hitting on her hard. Turns out this is Ralph, because then Dr. Carmen walks in, and he was like, all right, Ralph, that's cute, go take your seat, time to really do this. So yeah, one hell of an introduction to Ralph's character. So they start picking at Cynthia's brain and kind of like, you want to tell us why you're here, what you remember of what you've been through, and then she's just not really having it. She's just more taking in what everyone else is saying. But eventually she does break a little bit and says that, because Ralph's looking for, tell us all about the orgies, because, it's a cult. Of course there's orgies. So, yeah, tell me all that. And then you have Ed and Connie, and they got their, I guess, stereotype of what a cult is. So tell us these stories, and tell us about this, and tell us about that. And she's like, I don't remember any of that shit going down. She's like, it was just about love and unity, which is why they called it Unity Fields. And you could see the disappointments in everyone's eyes of no, it's a cult. It's got to be these over-the-top, things you read about in the news and stuff like that. And it gets to the point where they're like, oh, well, that's fucking bullshit. And that's when Lana chimes in and she's like, it's not bullshit. It's not. It's beautiful. And that's when we find out that she's essentially been a mute for the longest time. And this is the first time she's spoken forever. So all this therapy, all this shit going on. And apparently it's a, peace and love conversation that just gets her to blow out of her shell. And they're asking Cynthia, like, what are you looking to achieve here? And yet she just fucking woke up. Like, I'm sure a little bit of time's passed, but it almost seemed like, oh my God, you've been in a coma all this time. Oh, here, let's take you into this room. We'll start talking to you. It seemed like that's kind of how it played out, but I'm guessing there was at least a little bit of a gap. But they're asking, like, what do you want from this? And she's like, I just want to, she wants to acclimate to this new time. She was living in the, early, mid-70s. Some shit went down, she blinked, now she's in the late 80s. And that's where we get probably my favorite line from Miriam. She's like, you want to fit in the 80s? You're at least 2 divorces, a condo, and a yeast infection behind the times. Why don't you just stick to the 70s and move to Cleveland? And everybody cracks up because, I don't know, I guess Cleveland was a thing in the 70s? I don't know. I was very, very young at the time. I was too busy listening to Kiss But the session wraps up. We go a little later too, because again, she's been on her back all this time, so they show her in, I don't know if it's supposed to be like their gym type area, or if this is like their PT room, but you see her, she's trying to exercise, get her legs strengthened up a little bit, and as she's wrapping up, Ralph comes walking up to her, and he's just like, I got a great idea. Why don't you come to my room, and I'll catch you up to date. I got a hi-fi VHS, VCR, CD, MTV, which, watching that as a kid, it's like, oh my god, he said all the things. And I guess I didn't appreciate it at the time. Like, coming from Cynthia's end, that definitely comes off as an insane person. Like, all right, you just barked off a bunch of fucking letters and syllables. But at that time, they were very important things to have. So we're kind of going back and forth in between sessions and stuff like that. They're trying little, like, one of the things they try to help get out all the bad juju of the group. You know, everybody let their, like, hard feelings come out, and everybody gets a pillow and they scream into it. Cynthia's not super comfortable or fond or whatever of that, so she kind of goes off in the corner with her pillow and she closes her eyes, and then she has a flashback to when all the shit went down with the cold, and kind of reliving that and watching everybody else burn, and her just having that moment of, this isn't right, and trying to escape, and then she eventually gets knocked down. I think some debris or the ceiling or something falls on her and all that. And every time she has some kind of vision, it's always Harris showing up like, oh no, like, we're not done with you. You're gonna be with us. And I don't think it's at this time. I think it might be a little later, but at one point he does end up telling her, we were doing this as a group. And in a sense, like, because you backed out, the ritual isn't complete. You need to kill yourself as well, because otherwise we're not at the end game. Like, we're kind of hanging out in our own little cultist purgatory, and you need to join us in order for all of us to pass on to whatever their afterlife utopia situation is. So like I said, I don't remember if he said it at this time or if it was one of the later visions, but anyhow, so she freaks out, and enough that now they have a detective come into play, because she remembers at least that much more, at least how everything went down. She goes and kind of relays the story. The detective doesn't feel, you know, he kind of smells bullshit in this. Like, okay, so you're the only survivor in a house explosion. How do I know you didn't just come up with this story? Because there's a lot of shit you still don't remember. So he suspects her right out of the gate that she probably killed everyone and came up, you know, figured play off what everyone knew the cult to be doing, and this was her way of taking them all out. Or who knows, maybe she was a secret leader. I don't know. But the detective ain't having none of this. He's definitely smelling some bullshit in her story. And then, although I feel like my summary of all this has been longer than the actual time it took to get to this point, but roughly about 20 minutes into the movie is when shit starts to happen. It's one thing I'm definitely going to credit this movie on is it's got a really nice flow to it. There's downtime in the sense of, you know, you get a little bit of you know, you're getting conversations between people and stuff like that, but none of it, at least to me, felt like filler. Everything that goes on more or less makes sense to take into the next scene. But we get to, they're in a locker room. I'm not sure what they were doing. Well, I guess they were by the pool, so maybe they were all swimming, but a couple of them are hanging out in the locker room. And then you have Cynthia sitting there, and then Lana comes walking up, and she's like, look, I just really wanted to tell you, like, your story about this group and the love. Like, she was so focused on the love part of this. She's like, it just really spoke to me. And look, you've been out of the game a long time. I'm sure you could use a friend. And her delivery of it was just, I remember really feeling bad for her. I'm like, oh my God, this poor soul. Like, she wasn't like afraid of people, but again, she was like so timid. It almost came off that way. Like she was afraid to talk to people. But she's just like, look, if you want a friend, I'm here for you. I get where you're coming from. I know you've been through some shit and all, but you know, just, if you want a friend, I got you. Cynthia's just, you know, she wasn't in a good mood, and she was just like, I would just really appreciate you leaving me the fuck alone. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she goes and walks out of the room. And then Miriam, who just happened to be nearby, she comes walking over and she's like, you know what? She may be an awkward person, but she means well. She's a really good person, and I don't, like, she didn't flip out on her. She just came to her, because again, she cuts through the shit. She doesn't sugarcoat anything, but she's like, look, she's a good person. There was no reason for you to be a bitch to her. And she's just like, yeah, I'm just not in a good headspace right now, but you know what? I'm sorry I did that. So Miriam ends up walking out, and then Cynthia looks across the locker room, and then all of a sudden the wall opens up, and you see it, what amounts to her baptism into the cult. So she's having this dream, this vision, and it's her being walked into a lake. All the cult members are hanging out, and Harris is walking her over to the lake, and he says his words and all, and starts doing that. All the while, it keeps switching. Every time her head goes down, it'll be Cynthia, and then she gets ducked in again, and then it's Lana. So now you see Harris drowning Lana. So she freaks out, gets up, snaps out of it, and then she hears screaming coming from the other room, only to find, I forget if it was Miriam or one of the nurses there, but basically found Lana drowned face first in the pool. So of course now everyone's fucked up. Yeah, Ralph is not happy. And then I think they go back to another group session, and they're just trying to like talk through it and everything. So we got Cynthia back at her room, and then Miriam comes in to have a talk with her, and she goes on to explain, like, look, I'm not crazy. People assumed I was because of the magazine that I worked for, but I know the shit I talked about was the truth. And I love your story. And when I left my job, they left an open door there so I can go back at any time, and I could go in there and tell everyone what you've been through, and we could blow this shit wide open. And just goes on to give her this amazing pitch. So of course Cynthia can't refuse that. She's like, you know what, fuck it, let's do it. So they walk out of the room. They're kind of discussing some of the details of it all, and then they're walking down the hallway, and then Miriam hops into an elevator. Cynthia gives her a reassuring wave, like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do this, talk to you soon. And there was like a cart that was like kind of half blocking the elevator, and then when that moves away, you see behind Miriam in the elevator is Harris, and he's kind of waving back. Cynthia's like, what the fuck? And then they cut back to him, and his face is just all charred and melted and yuck. So she freaks out. She gets herself to whatever floor Miriam went to, runs over to the elevator, and finds her bag kind of sitting in the door of the elevator. And just as she notices this, she turns around, and Miriam throws herself out the fucking window. Splat. So again, we go back to, well, what's left of the group. Again, Ralph's losing his shit. He's like, this is fucking bullshit. Why is this all happening? But they're all having their conversations about it. Of course, the detective, he comes in, and he's just like, I don't know, this is pretty fucking weird. And then we go to Ed and Connie hanging out in, I don't know if they're roommates or if, I think it was Connie's room, and then Ed came over to see her. And all throughout the movie, they love their medication time. I think at least 3 or 4 times they cut to everybody getting their meds for the day. I guess to remind everyone that we are in a psych hospital. But Ed comes walking in, he and Connie are talking, they start mounting up. She even makes a joke about, all right, come on, let's do this, so when I wake up tomorrow, I'll have a reason to hate myself. Again, a fun little quip they throw out there, but they're making out for a few seconds, and then Ed's like, you know what? I got the perfect place for this. So then they go walking off hand in hand down the hallway. They walk past Cynthia's room. She sees them walk by, and she sees Harris walk by behind them. So now she's freaking out, again, trying to play catch up to see where they're going. And I don't know how they got access to any of this shit. Basically ended up in the generator room or something. But you see them walk into this like utility type room, and in the background it's this beautiful turbine. So they go in, and Ed whips out a little bottle of liquor, and they're doing little sips, and then they're walking closer and closer to the turbine. And then we go back to the main hospital where the lights start flickering. Maintenance guy decides to go off, find out what the hell's going on. He's like, something probably got stuck in the turbine. Spoiler! He goes to this latch, this overhead latch, trying to open it to I guess, get into that area, and it's not budging. So he sits down to take a breather, and then all of a sudden it starts turning on its own, and then there's little drips coming out of it, little red drips, and eventually the door just pops wide open, and fucking blood and guts and body parts are just showering down on him. Of course, now he's, what the fuck? Go back down into the hospital, or, the main area, and everybody's out in the hallway trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Dr. Carmen, he's looking around, he's like, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, Cynthia starts hearing like these whispers. So she's walking and she keeps looking up, and every couple feet there's like a grate in the ceiling. Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like a return duct or something like that, and she's walking a little more and looks up again, walks up a little more, and then she looks up and she keeps saying, "Where's Ed and Connie?" And then you see again Harris's charred face peeping through one of the grates, and he's like, "They're with us now." And then just all of a sudden the grate turns red, and I was waiting for Slayer to start playing, because it just showers down all red on everyone. All these grates, it's just, you look down the hallway and it's just these pools of red accumulating. So 2 more down. Again, in the meantime, we go back to Carmen and Dr. Beresford talking, and Beresford is like determined, like something's not right. These kids they need help. We need to double our efforts and figure out what the hell's going on. Again, the cop's like, you get this chick waking up from a coma, and suddenly all this shit's going down. Like, we got to figure out what the fuck she's doing. Now we cut to Ralph hanging out in his room, and actually it cuts to a desk with like a hunting knife, which I don't know why he would have that, but it's down on the table. And oh, I'm sorry, in the beginning of the movie, when Ralph is hitting on Cynthia in the PT room, he offers her a little life hack, and he explains, you know what, when things get rough or just internal tension builds too much, he's like, I make a little hole and it all goes away. And he pulls his shirt up, and you just see all these scars in his torso of him, like, stabbing himself, pricking himself. Like, he didn't really go into detail, so I don't know if he's like DIY acupuncture or what's going on. But so yeah, you see the desk, you see the knife, and then all of a sudden, whack, Ralph just fucking high fives this thing, and you see the blade just go straight through, and he don't even flinch. He fucking pulls his hand off, and he was just like, ah. And I'm sorry, I don't care how fucking crazy you are, like, to not react, like, not even just a little Peter Griffin, like anything. He was just like, okay, I feel better now. So he decides to get up, walks over to Cynthia's room. The other thing I forgot to mention, I really got to do better note taking on these. The whole movie, Dr. Carmen he's a fucking creep. Definitely some ethics issues here. Now, I understand. Cynthia's a beautiful woman. However, I don't think the doctor is supposed to be this forward with her. He definitely comes off as caring for her beyond the doctor-patient scope. So Cynthia, I don't know if she was trying to leave or what was going on, but she at least had to get the fuck out of her room. So she starts walking away. She goes over to the elevator, and then Carmen comes out of the elevator, and he's just like, "Oh, where are you going?" He's just like, "I just thought, here, let's just have a chill night. We'll go back to your room. Got a bunch of processed snacks here, and we're just gonna chill out, talk, and stuff our faces." So they go back to her room. At one point, Carmen has to wash up in the bathroom, and that's when Ralph comes over with his bloody hand, and not even making a big deal about it, but kind of walks over, and he's just like, "You know what? Everything's going to be okay. Everything's cool." And you see him, he puts his hand up on the door jamb, and then as soon as she notices it, he's just like, "Oh, yeah, all right, well, I'm going to go now." So he walks off. She goes to start following him. Carmen comes out of the bathroom, and he's just like, wait, is that you, Ralph? Wait, where'd everybody go? So now he's trying to track them down. Now you got Ralph and Cynthia in the freight elevator. Again, I don't know how. I would say that's the big flaw of this movie. Security sucks real bad. Like, so much happens in this movie that really shouldn't in a psych ward. They got to keep better watch on these people. So yes, somehow he has access to the freight elevator, and the two of them in there, and this is probably the most manic Ralph gets. He's just like, they're hanging out in there, and then he's just like, he like wigs out for a second. Yeah, I said wigs out. and like, stop it, you're looking so tense, knock it off. And he's like, I'm sorry, maybe I overreacted. And now he's just all like laughing and playful. And I just love how he was able to like turn that switch of going from like chill to just freaking the fuck out. But they end up going to, I guess it's like a stock area type of thing. And he goes down there and he just goes on this fucking like tirade. Like he's ranting. He decides now he's going to get all philosophical and shit. In the meantime, he's just like breaking shit, throwing shit. And I guess this is his break room, you know, before those were a thing. He just he implies that he goes down there somewhat frequently and he'll just have his little rampage. He'll start breaking shit and all this, and it'll chill him the fuck out. So he's going off, doing his thing. Cynthia's like, now, like, Ralph, calm the fuck down. Like, what are you doing? In the meantime, Carmen happens to get... Actually, the detective just happened to be in the neighborhood again because, they did decide to up security. But again, this shit I'm talking about now, if security was actually on the ball, they wouldn't have gotten this far. But anyhow, detective's there. So him and Carmen find out where they're going. And basically they get there down to this stockroom just in time for Ralph. He ends up picking up a couple scalpels. The detective pulls a gun on him. He's like, drop him. And again, he's just like, and then, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. And he takes both scalpels, fucking lets out a scream, jabs them both into his stomach, and just pulls up. And that was, now, again, it might be the bias, because again, at that point, I was a huge Dean Cameron fan. So maybe it was just the fact that it was him, but this was always my favorite kill of the movie. Like, other than letting out that scream, and it was more of a he's psyching himself up to do it kind of thing, but just, and yeah, it was great. And for once, the detective sees that at the very least, Cynthia's not killing anyone, because he just watched this psycho kill himself. Now, she was in the room, but she didn't do it. He could see she was just as traumatized as they were. So at this point, Beresford's like, you know what? We got to put this bitch in isolation. Like, everybody's fucking gone at this point. So he's like, we're going to lock her up in solitary. Carmen's not happy about this. And he ends up explaining to him, it's either we do this or she can go with the cops. And Carmen's finally putting together, like, you want them to be killing themselves. Like, you have this grand theory, and maybe he's looking to get published. I don't know what, I forget what the deal is, but it's like, for everyone in this ward to kill themselves is going to benefit him. So Carmen goes over to the detective, and he's just like, you know what? I would much rather her be in a jail cell, and I will do what I can to make that happen as long as I can continue to be her doctor. And the detective's like, yeah, fine, that's fine with me. But Beresford's like, nope, I'm pulling rank. I'm not signing her out. She's going into solitary. So as they're hauling her off, Gilda ends up coming over. And again, throughout the whole movie, I mean, obviously I'm trying not to give every single detail of the movie, even though I kind of am. Anyhow, throughout Gilda, like every time there's a death, either one's about to come or one just happened, Gilda will come in again with this whole, like, you're all doomed, and just kind of explaining, like, yeah, he's going to keep coming for you. And then she would wander off. So as Cynthia's getting hauled off to her new living space for the moment, Gilda catches up to her and is like, look, you need to go on. Like, I'm nothing, but you need to go on. And I guess kind of gives her, like, a bit of a pep talk, a very cryptic one. So she gets all locked up. Gilda goes back to her room, and she's sitting there laying in bed, and it's all focusing on her, and then you see, like, the shadow of somebody walking in, and she's like, oh, I knew you were coming. Surprise, surprise, guess who it is? And she goes on to explain, like, you are not going to get her. And while we're at it, you're not going to get me either. And this is one of those things that makes no sense at all, unless I missed something. But it was a great moment. But again, it made no sense. She reaches over, she says, you're not going to get me either. Reaches over to the nightstand, and there just happens to be, it looked like a bottle of rubbing alcohol, but I think it was kind of like pinkish. But apparently it was some kind of acid. And she takes that, and she fucking chugs the shit out of that bottle, drops to the ground, you hear the sizzling going on. And like I said, it was a cool thing for the movie. Why or how the fuck did she get that on her nightstand? And again, it looked like a rubbing alcohol bottle, so it's whatever was in there apparently was enough to do some damage to a body, but not so much to melt through a plastic bottle. Whatever. It was a cool, like, in the sense of, all right, that was different. So with all the hubbub going on with the two doctors fighting it out, Carmen basically is, your services are no longer needed with us. So he has a little tantrum. You got the obligatory 80s, somebody just got fired and they're walking out the back door in a dark parking lot with a cardboard box of all their belongings. It's just one of those dumb things that I look back with such fondness. Every movie like that, whether it's a cop or some executive or whatever. It's always, they got that one box overfilled with all of their career possessions. So he goes out, pops his trunk, throws the box in there, and then he hears something, somewhere else in the parking lot, looks around, and there's Beresford going out to his car. In the meantime, Carmen notices, oh, there's something in my shirt pocket. Pulls it out, and it's a pill. So he's like, all right, fuck it. And I think he even said, like, oh, sorry, officer, I'll write a prescription for this in the morning. So he pops the pill, because why the fuck not? And it's a little fucked up that he didn't know what it was, but I guess it just happened to be in his pocket, so all right, I'm going to take this. So he goes, gets in his car, and he's just stewing. Like, there's the douchebag that I know is up to no good. I don't know to what extent, but he's up to no good. He just fired me, so he's stewing and decides, start the car up, back up, flies across the parking lot, wham! Just fucking smashes him into a wall multiple times. And now that he's got that out of his system, he backs the car up a little bit, goes to take a breather, and apparently in one of these impacts, again, another staple of the 80s that happened a lot, was caused a little leak in his gas tank. Guess there was a little faulty wiring by the gas tank. I don't know why. Again, the 80s, I'll go with it. And woof, his fucking car explodes. To which our beloved Dr. Carmen immediately wakes up in his car in the parking spot. It was all a hallucination. So now he jumps out of the car like, all right, what the fuck was that? Manages to sneak his way back in. And this is where we get our brief appearance from yet another alum of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Charles Fleischer, who plays Ron, the exposition dump. So Ron is the hospital pharmacist. So Dr. Carmen goes into his office and he's like, I need to know all the drugs these fucking kids are getting. Because I just took something and something ain't right. So they start going through the files and finding out what medications are prescribed to everyone. He's just like, okay, what's this? What's this? What's this? And Ron is explaining like, okay, that's a weird thing to prescribe to someone. This one will drive a person insane. This one will make you hallucinate. I forget what he said the one was called, but basically it was like 100 milligrams or something of THC. And especially nowadays, that was just funny. Like making a big deal like, ooh, that is a very concentrated dose of marijuana. Ooh, this is really going to fuck someone up. Okay, I can see maybe the full dose, but it's like all these things that it seems is harming the psyche of all the patients there. It's like, ooh, and there's this marijuana pill. But that's when Dr. Carmen puts together, holy shit, Beresford's drugging all the patients to drive them to kill themselves. So we go back to Cynthia locked up in her room, and you got the nurse's station where they're monitoring all the rooms, and you see Cynthia having a conversation with someone. She's sitting in her bed, like kind of curled up, and she's talking to somebody who is behind the camera. And you go in and you find out it's Cynthia talking once again to a charred up Harris. And you could see her just completely breaking down. It's like, yes, I'm ready to be at peace. I'm ready to join you. It was foolish of me to ever go. And again, just totally chill. Like she doesn't have this like full on breakdown, but she just accepted, like, I've been dumb to not notice this. This is my fate. Why would I want to avoid paradise? So eventually Beresford comes in and explains to her, like, okay, well, we're going to take you where you want to go, which apparently is the roof. So he takes her up there, sits her on the ledge of the roof, and is just, and the whole time he's calm. Like, Beresford, like, never loses his shit, really, for the whole movie. But he's just like, how do you feel? What do you see? What do you want to do? And again, she's just in this state of mind where it's like, I want to be at peace. I want to Like, I want to go back to all my friends. And he says, like, this is, like, your decision. So now we have the whole ticking clock thing. They're having their conversation. It's obvious that Cynthia is ready to move on, to go on to where she was meant to be. You have Carmen trying to recruit the cops to go find them, and he's just like, look, this is what's been going on this whole time. I finally cracked the case. I have receipts. Let's go find this motherfucker, which ends up leading to our third act, final battle. A bunch of things happen, but for the most part, it's a relatively, not simple, but yeah, a very run-of-the-mill 80s rooftop final battle with a slight twist to it. But if you made it this far and have not yet watched the movie, I'll save that much for you to go find out on your own. It's still a little dark. I don't know if it's the happiest of endings, but yeah. So I guess going back to the beginning, or at least the earlier reference, and apparently the reason why this movie didn't seem to do so well at the box office was, again, this is a year after Dream Warriors came out. Again, you go with that early fan-made synopsis. Obviously, this is a blatant Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff. And I see why. There's a lot of similar elements, but all in all, there isn't a ton of blood in this. Like, in the few moments where there is blood, okay, there's a lot, but it's not like you're getting these over-the-top graphic kills throughout the movie. To the point where this is almost, I shouldn't even say almost, this is more of like a psychological horror, more so than a slasher. You do get slasher elements to it, but this is more of a movie about trauma, PTSD, and just because, again, I in my opinion, all the characters are pretty three-dimensional, and there was no reason for them to be. But you did, like, and again, that first group session, you got a really good sense of who all these people were, to the point where, even though they all had their asshole moments, there was still a likability to them, to where when they all met their fate, you felt bad. You didn't want to lose them. Something else that I didn't appreciate as much as a kid, like I said, I enjoyed the movie as a kid, but it was more for the superficial part of it. Like, I enjoyed it as another horror movie with blood and ghosts and all that shit in there. And not saying I went into this with this over-analytical thing, but watching as a kid, I didn't appreciate the music in it. Like, it definitely helped pull me in. I felt all duties were accomplished as far as acting, because again, they played these characters well enough that you liked them, flaws and all. I thought the casting was pretty fucking perfect. Especially Harris Yulin being in there. Well, I guess the combination of him and Richard Lynch being in this movie, because when you get to that I guess plot twist that it was Beresford drugging everyone, causing Cynthia to see Harris, when you get that discovery, there are a few shots where it's kind of blurred and you see Harris, but then it kind of fades a little bit. Like it's like a hybrid of the two characters, technically the two villains of the movie. And there's just enough of a resemblance between the two of them that even when it's kind of fading in between the two, it's not that drastic of a change. It's enough you could tell it's two different actors, but yeah, I thought this was the perfect combo to fulfill how this played out. Again, as big of a fan as I was of Dream Warriors, and I always said Taron and Kincaid are like my two favorites of that fucking movie. So of course I was a fan of Jennifer Rubin, even though it was just based off that one movie at the time. I thought she was really good in this. She did a good job at playing this tortured soul, but also through a lot of the movie, she had this, because again, like, she was pretty much a child when all this shit went down in the 70s. Now she's a young woman, but just because she aged, her brain is still in that childhood state. So being able to play that childlike innocence, and like she was like curious and optimistic. So you got that almost lighthearted angle of the character. But again, when shit went bad, she actually looked like she was mentally being tortured. So again, I have more broad taste than the masses, I guess, but I thought she did great. And again, I thought everyone did great. Dean Cameron him being the comic relief, yet still playing such a straight character. Again, just him, that manic switch I thought he was perfect for that. E.G. Daily as Lana, even though she was probably the most short-lived of the movie. Again, like, she plays this character that you just want to reach in the screen and fucking give her a hug. Like, she was like so like sweet and innocent. Again, for as little screen time as she got, it seemed like she was the one character you would care about the most. And Susan Rutten as Miriam, again, number 2, like, she's the runner-up MVP of the fucking movie. I just loved her sarcasm. Again, her bluntness, her no bullshit. And again, just all the while, just she always had a fucking cigarette in her mouth. Again, knowing that they were given some wiggle room to like ad-lib, or if they wanted to have a conversation about changing things up for what they felt served the character better. I don't know how much of all these performances were they're doing or if it was part of the script, but either way, I thought it played out fucking great. The effects in this, Freddy is what made me a horror fan. And the makeup for Freddy's makeup is iconic. Was it the scariest? Yeah, maybe a little bit in the original and in Freddy's Revenge. But other than that, you're just, like, he became such an icon. You don't look at his face and think scary. But the burn effects in this, holy shit. Like, for a movie that's not over-the-top scary, when they switch to his burnt face, like, even on this most recent rewatch, like, fuck, that's creepy as hell. You got, like, his ear kind of melted and half hanging off. He's got because Richard Lynch has these, like, beautiful baby blue eyes, which in this character is kind of haunting, but when he's burnt, they do, like, the white, the milky white, hazed over contacts in, and yeah, it fucks with you. But things like Ralph's final moments, again, like high-fiving a fucking hunting knife, it looked really fucking good. And then his whole tantrum and his unfortunate demise at the I mean, again, watching it now, you could tell it's fake, but it still looked really fucking good. Like, maybe if you had a good visual effects team on there, it could have tied up those loose ends to really sell it for looking realistic. But the practical effects were good enough that CGI alone would not have been able to do any better. Like I said, maybe a little enhancement with visual effects, but yeah, fucking awesome. So, where am I going to rate this one? I might have to go with a 9 on this one. I remember when it first came out on VHS, it was one of the many movies that I rented the shit out of it. And when it came on cable, I fucking taped it and watched the shit out of it some more. And it was just one of my go-to movies. If I didn't have something new to watch, I'm going to throw Bad Dreams on again. And again, it was just for, at face value, entertainment. There's a creepy guy, there's blood, there's a great cast, even though I didn't appreciate half of them at the time, but again, they were just fun, quirky characters. But on this rewatch, I think I find it way more creepy now than I did as a kid. It was pure enjoyment then, but watching it as on paper as an adult, it's dark as hell. And as much as I loved it as a kid, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I do now. Fuck, this is going to have to be at a minimum like an annual watch for me. And if anyone out there who has actually listened to all of this and yet has not seen the movie, like, please do. If you're a fan of 80s movies, and that's another thing I'm going to give it huge props for. Although, I'm going to have to start watching late 80s stuff, like rewatching a lot of that more, because this is at least the second time, maybe the third time, where I went back and watched something from the later end of the 80s when it all just became a caricature of the early 80s slashers. Like, they definitely, and you know, you gotta take these big franchises and kind of give some of the blame to them. They became so iconic that, you know, slashers more or less started becoming like spoofs of themselves. Like, there was a level of self-awareness to it all. And because these franchises were huge, everybody that was trying to, make the next big thing, they walked into it like, oh, well, this has to be silly and funny. And again, in my opinion, a lot of great horror in the later end of the 80s, but the pickings were slimmer than the first half of the decade. So for this show, at least the second time, where this movie is way better than it had any right to be. At the time period that this came out, like, it should have been a silly Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff, but it wasn't. Again, similar elements to it, but it's so not the same movie. Like I said, this is more of a mindfuck, more so than a slasher. But it has enough slasher elements to again, tickle that itch. And one more thing I learned in the process of trying to do some research for this, just any little trivia tidbits that I may not have known before. I was unaware that Richard Lynch, I think they said about 20 years before this movie came out, I think they said he was all like fucked up on drugs, but set himself on fire. And it was funny learning that just before this last rewatch, because now when they're doing close-ups of him, you could see some scarring in his face. So if that wasn't interesting enough, they said his first time in the makeup chair, and they put the melted, burnt, charred fucking prosthetics on him, the first time he saw himself in full makeup, he needed some time. They did such a good job that it took him back to that tragedy earlier in his life. And I think they even said, they had even if it's for a tiny amount of time, they kind of had to pause things for a bit because he needed to come to terms with this makeup, which I guess is more testament to how good of a job they did. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Richard Lynch did not look like that when he caught fire, but I'd imagine there's no way in hell he would have recovered as well as he did. Yet another message from Captain Obvious. But yeah, Bad Dreams, 1988. For any 80s horror fans, this is a must-watch. And I just had this thought pop into my head of, fuck, I need to watch that again. And I have seen it other than its initial run. So I'd say 88 to late 89 is when I watched the hell out of it. And then kind of forgot about it until about a year ago, and then looked it up, and it was just and that's when it first hit me, oh fuck, this is actually a good movie. Yeah, fuck Roger Ebert. And it popped into my head again. It's, you know what, because I've realized not enough people, I can't even say not enough people like this movie. I'm finding out more and more just how much people aren't even aware of it. And that's just sad. Yeah, I'm gonna shut up now. Fucking love this movie. If you haven't seen it, please do. And whether you loved it or hate it, let me know when you think about it. Let me know how batshit I am. Thank you all once again. Don't forget to do all the things. And of course, a rating, review on wherever you listen to this show. Be well, be safe, stay creepy, and keep talking some damn horror.
Our love will never die.
Doodles. Broadcast completed.
Listening to What an Excellent Day for a Podcast. Be sure to come on down to excellentdayforapodcast.com, where you'll find our entire catalog. And for your convenience, every episode contains a link where you can text the nerds. Want to throw some praise? Some critique? Perhaps you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like to see us tackle. But while you think about that, you can also check out the connections to all of our socials, including our YouTube channel. Give all them a visit. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with everybody you know. And for those feeling a little extra generous, there's also a button where you can support the show in other ways. Every bit of support helps. Well, that's it for this episode. And remember, stay creepy and keep talking some damn horror.